Oh, we're so excited to have Suanny Upegui share with us today. And this is the second class of the herbal series, Plants as Medicine. My name is Diana Seiler. I'm a licensed massage therapist and volunteer on the Council for the Holistic Health Community, which is sponsoring this series along with the Morty and Gloria Wolosoff Foundation. Plants as Medicine is an effort of the holistic health community to bring ethnic diversity into our community of practitioners by inviting Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and other non-white herbal instructors to teach, including individuals of any sexual orientation. With support in spreading the word, we hope to have a more racially diverse audience for the classes. In turn, we hope this introduces more people to the offerings we provide through the Healthcare Week, self-care classes, special events, and health-related films sponsored in partnership with the Rosendale Theater Collective, as well as diversifying our practitioners who are offering services through the holistic health community. Thus far, our community has been mainly white. With the rise of Black Lives Matter movement came the awareness of our need to consciously extend our reach if we truly intend to be holistic in nature and in service to all who are looking for affordable options for healthcare. Our intention is to create relationships that expand our community near and far for the benefit of all. On our website, there is a resource tab under which you can find a diversity initiative page, which I'll post in the chat, which talks about this herbal series and where you can find a list of links to local projects put forward by groups and individuals who are ethnically diverse. We hope you'll take a look. We are beginning to form relationships with some of these groups and hope to be mutually supportive. One project mentioned is Sweet Freedom Farm, which you will hear more about in a moment. I will be putting a link to their website in the chat and hope you will consider donating in support of the great work they're doing. I'm delighted to have Dara Lowry here to introduce Suanny, explain a little bit about Sweet Freedom Farm, and to facilitate the Q&A at the end. Dara was the inspiration for this series. She is the co-founder of the People's Wellness Initiative, aka PWI, which you will hear a little about in a moment. She is a co-host of Black Stories Matter, a TMI project. She is on the board of Wise Bodies. She's a Good Work Institute fellow and is a writer and so much more. Dara, take it away.
I did it again. I didn't unmute.
And you are mute, Dara, so let me unmute
No, I am
you.
unmuted now, I think.
Well,
no?
I'm not hearing you, but it doesn't look like you're muted. Can any other folks hear Dara? Give a thumbs up if you can.
Good. Everybody, I get a thumbs up from Suanny. Okay, cool. All right. Let's try that again. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the most oft-used sentence. You are muted.
Wow, so the music is going the whole time I gave that intro, huh?
No.
Oh, funny. Okay, good to know.
Well, again, thank you, Diana, for the introduction, and thank you to HHC for inviting me and for partnering with us on this series, really collaborating on this series. And I'm delighted to be here and just support Suanny's work. Obviously, Suanny is a strong member of the People's Wellness Initiative, which is a network of BIPOC and allied herbalists and wellness professionals who are working to bring direct care, information, and training into Black and Brown and other historically underserved communities. So we are really delighted for this partnership and look forward to only growing this collaboration. And I'm very happy to introduce Suanny now. And I'm sure, like everyone else, looking forward to this training. Suanny is a founder of Casa Finca, a community organizer and a psycho-spiritual and shamanic medicine guide. She was born in Choco, Colombia, raised in the mountains of Medellin, and in the Amazon. And she moved to the US at the age of 12 to get away from civil war. As an Afro-Colombian indigena in a foreign country, it became important for her to go deep into her own remembering and embodiment. She was brought up with plant medicine in the forefront of healing ways. And because of this, her ancestors made it clear that her path is to share the wisdom of nature and curate magical experiences to cultivate and support the healing of our individual and collective consciousness wherever possible. Suanny works closely with the indigenous communities in the Amazonian jungle, Colombian Sierra Nevada, and with local elders of the Northeast in New York. Her goal is to support in any way possible the needs of the jungle, the earth, ancestral traditions, and our elders' wisdom to be passed on to the new generations in honoring and respecting the people that came here before us. You can find Suanny in ceremony with the land, trees, mountains, plants, the elements, the spirits of the plant world to understand the nature inside and out of us. This connection to the spirit world helps and keeps cultivating her to understand all the gifts and love all living beings have to give us, and the fact that all around us is activated and eager to help. More about Suanny's work can be found at casafincanyc.com. I'm delighted to introduce Suanny.
Hi, everyone. That was such a beautiful introduction. I never had anyone introduce me that way, so thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here and share a little bit about my work. This is, as you know, it's just an introduction to some of the work that I do, and just getting to know a little bit of the elements and how we can work with them as plant practitioners, or whatever we may want to call ourselves, herbalist. I'm going to have Diana share the screen for me because my computer is not working. So, but we'll make it work. And before we start, I invited all of you to have a cup of tea, and just so we can make that connection with a plant, a flower, a root, anything that it's been calling you this season, perhaps this year, perhaps last year. I currently am working with roses right now because they're coming out. They're blooming as we are having this conversation. And yeah, they have so many beautiful messages about the heart and the blooming of our hearts. So I wanted to bring that medicine here to all of you and see what it has to say, because I'm just a channel of the medicine to whatever it wants to share. It's what's going to be shared here. So I just invite you to keep drinking the tea that you chose, the herb that you chose, and perhaps we can share a little bit about the experience at the end of the conversation. This is sharing through this medium. It's kind of new for me, but I think I'm getting a little bit used to it. So bear with this. Yay, Dara, thanks for the fresh nettles. You're bringing some fresh nettle medicine here. All right, so yeah, the reason why I've been working with, and I call part of my work spiritual herbalism, it's because although I study traditional herbalism and more of the scientific background of the herbs, I always felt very disconnected studying that way. And I felt like it was a little bit more on the masculine side of learning, and coming from my culture and coming from my ancestry, we have learned a lot about nature through connection and through more digging our hands into the soil, or meditating right next to a tree and just having more of the relationship um, with the intelligence of the plant. So that is why spiritual herbalism came to my knowledge, and why I choose to perhaps talk about it more than any other way of herbalism. So yeah, just to have a deep relationship to the plant intelligence and the spirit of each plant. And the reason why I call it, or maybe some other people also call it spiritual herbalism, is because we're not only working with the body of the plant, we're working with the spirit, the body, and the soul of the plant. So kind of like we're treating the plant as if it was us. We have the spirit, the soul, and the mind. Same thing for the plant kingdom or kingdom, and that's how we want to make connection with the spirits of the plant. So a lot of the things that also come to mind when working with spiritual herbalism, it's the connection of the heart and the third eye. So that way we're connecting. We're not only creating knowledge through our thought forms, but also how we feel about something, or the connection that we have through the heart. So the reason why I say the heart and mind is, instead of separating the two, we create an arrow where the two can meet and they can make decisions, or they can learn together and make those connections and those relationships together, instead of looking at them in a separate way. And understanding that we are also part of the ecosystem of everything, right? We're also plants or trees or whatever we want to feel into, but we are part of this beautiful big ecosystem. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. Thank you. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is ritual and ceremony, and this comes from a lot of my ancestry of how we connect to the plants and the sorry, my dog is having a little bit of a hard time right now. So yeah, ritual and ceremony, it's how we connect with the plant kingdom. A lot of our spiritual traditions have to do with going through initiations with different plants, and creating connection with the plant is by, sometimes we do dietas, which it means diets with that plant. And in shamanism, a lot of our elders have gotten to the point where they are initiated by the plant intelligence through tobacco or other master plants. So even though we're not necessarily in this part of the world, we don't necessarily work with those master plants that I call, we still can create that ritual and ceremony around the plants that live around us. And that would help us create more of a connection, and instead of a very extractive or consumerism ideal around it. I think a lot of the plants, in my belief, is that there is a little bit of we still have a little bit of the consumerism idea around it, and I think that is hurting a lot of our the connection that we have with the nature world. So when I say extraction and consumerism, I think of over harvesting, or perhaps just unnecessarily harvesting just to have medicine for no reason, instead of just letting our bodies ask for what medicine should come to us, instead of having this mentality of always wanting to have all the things that exist around us and having it in our home. And yeah, just the whole habit of over harvesting and overproducing, it's it just takes away the connection that we have with these plants. And I think we need to start thinking about the plant kingdom or the plant queendom as if it was us, and would we like to be over harvested or overused, you know? So just to start having more of that idea around it, I think is really important, or that principle around it is really important. How many of something do you need really, and how many of something are you harvesting, and are you leaving the rest of these plants for the butterflies or the bees or what, the, you know, everything else that is part of our ecosystem? Or are we just not thinking about anything else besides making medicine and having this medicine available for either selling or for just because we want to have it available? So yeah, just start thinking more around that aspect of herbalism, having more of an honest relationship with harvesting and medicine making. All right, so next slide, please. And so that's kind of like a whole overview of what I believe spiritual herbalism is more of that connection to the plants, how we harvest, how we relate to them, the introduction to them as ritual and ceremony again. There are several rituals that we use to introduce ourselves to a plant. I do encourage everyone that to perhaps go outside and talk to a plant that has been calling you, to see what that plant has to say back to you. And I promise that if you truly listen, that the plant is going to speak to you. And plants speak to you through, or flowers or the spirit of a plant will speak to you through dreams, or there's voices that can come through, or thoughts, or visions or pictures in your mind. So if you really go out there and want to make that connection, I encourage you to do that. And one of the ways that the spirit allies work with us is that when they show up, they have a lot of messages for us. And yeah, and then always listening to what they're trying to tell us. And the cool thing about working with the plant spirits is that sometimes, although we do understand the healing components as more in the Western way of herbalism, they might ask you to work with them in a different way. So listening to them is really cool, because they also do have other components that we're still not aware of, other healing components. And it's not in this slide. And I just wanted to kind of go back a little bit before I go into the elements, into ritual and ceremony. You can go out with a drum and introduce yourself with a drum if you have one, perhaps a rattle. You can, any instrument, perhaps if you have a song that you want to sing to it, and if you have an offering to give to the plant, introduce yourself with your name, and you can say why you're there. I think that's really important. And the plant will speak back to you when the plant feels like you have that open channel, or you're ready to receive. And tobacco, it's usually a really good medicine to offer to plants, or any part of nature, to introduce yourself and offer your your relationship to the plant. So that's one way to do it. And another easy way is just to meditate right next to the plant and close your eyes and see if there's any visions coming through. All right, so we're going to move into the elements a little bit. And the reason why I like to work with the elements, because the elements, all plants beings and everything that is around us consist of the elements. And if we want to understand not only the body, mind, but also the spiritual aspect of herbs and ourselves and the function that we or the relationship that we both have, it's nice to have an understanding on the elements. I know that a lot of people, there's a lot of different traditions that work with four elements. I wanted to introduce the 5-element principle, and one of them being the spirit, because the spirit is everything that it's around, that it's kind of like the empty spaces around all the other elements. So the unseen. All right, so yeah, the elements have been used across the world for generations, from ancient to traditional herbalism, and you can see it in Ayurveda, you can see it in Chinese medicine, you can see it in shamanic medicine, and even like Western medicine or Western herbalism, even if they might not say earth, water, fire, and air, they do talk about moist, warm, cold, and dry. So it is the same principle. It's just, it's named a little bit different. I'm just going to take a quick break to have some tea as well. So the elements are really good, a really good way of assessing and understanding our constitution and the one of the plants, and then also understanding the connection that we have to everything. We are, and if you think about the elements, we can go super deep into the chakras, we can go into the planets, we can go into our zodiac signs, there's a map that connects to the elements, and there's a map that connects to everything. So it's a pretty cool principle to play with, and to even if you're talking to someone and a plant is coming through in your mind, and then that reflects to what the person is going through, then it's kind of like a good affirmation for you for you to tell that person to perhaps work with that plant. So we have earth, water, fire, air, and spirit. Next, please. Here I just wanted to show you a little bit of the Ayurveda principles with the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And then also we have the 4-direction wheel and the 4 elemental spirit wheel. And this comes in a lot of indigenous traditions. They always call upon the spirits of each direction. Each direction has an element that it's added to it. It has a part of the season. That's another cool about the elements. They do relate to each season. And that goes back to the dosas that you can see on one side. So if you go and investigate a little bit more about the elements, you'll see that it's just being used for so many generations in alchemy, which is, it comes from a long time ago. And I just encourage you to go deeper, and it becomes a really easy map to understand and what perhaps a person that you're assessing is going through. Okay, next slide, please. And here's a cool picture of the different chakras. Again, every chakra has it's correlated to the element, and it also correlates to a gland, correlates to a part of your body. So if you say, perhaps someone is showing dryness in their body and in their skin, or then then you can start thinking about something, some deficiency with water, or like something that has to do with water. Someone that, and then you can go into this maps and see, okay, what is the water element correlate what chakra, and what that chakra correlates to an organ, or some emotional something. So you can just go into this, all of this different map, this map that can tell you so much about the person, what the person is going through, instead of just being like, oh, I don't know, mullein is good for your lungs. But you can also go deeper than that. You can go deeper than, okay, the lungs correlate to this, and is it, you know, or even like, if you want to go into the lungs, so you can go into the heart chakra. But also when it comes to the elements, there's another, I believe that they correlate to the middle of the chakra as well. So perhaps there is a deficiency of water. Not only, you can just play so much with it, but this is a good picture, and I can send all of this information at the end of the presentation, so you can kind of like play with it and like learn a little bit more about all of these cool things with the elements. All right, next. All right, so we are going into just going a little bit deeper into each element, and I did them with the color that they kind of correlate to each chakra. And the reason why this is cool, because even when we feel like there is deficiency of the earth element in our bodies, or the person needs to work with the earth element, then some foods can be red, and that can give you a clue that that food is good for that chakra, or for that element, or for whatever is happening in someone's body or constitution. So when I think of earth, I think of the divine feminine principle. I think of the mother, the earth, abundance, nourishment, compassion, forgiveness, stability. So I feel I find it to be like very into the structure, the groundedness, a lot of fertility, materiality, the things that we can manifest, and that comes from like that root chakra, earth, like being here, being present. And the earth element is ruled by, do you have something to say, Dara, or that was just
Yes.
Okay.
I did that on purpose, not by accident.
All right.
Yeah, I'm reading this chart and I'm seeing a lot of stuff here, but then I see ancestral trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge topic, I realize, but I wonder if you could speak to that element of if as a practitioner, or just as a person who isn't a practitioner, but the healing of that energy at the root.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll go down there in a second, but thanks for bringing it up, because I do think it's really important. The planets that are ruled by this element are Saturn and Earth. And the cool thing about understanding the planets that are ruled by the elements is that if you look into each plant has it has a planet that they're also ruled by. And this investigation has been made by people before, but I do encourage people to make that investigation yourselves and understand the qualities of Saturn and the Earth planet, and then go into a plant and see if they correlate to that. So again, Saturn has to do with the structure, the kind of like the thing, I see it as like more the thing that organizes a lot of, makes everything very organized, and like kind of like rules and it's just, yeah, organization, right? So if we think about a plant that can do that into our bodies, or an organ that needs, that it's lacking that part of the earth, and what plant can help that part of the organ that you're trying to work with. So looking into the planets that are like the plants that are ruled by what planets is a cool way to understand if they're ruled, but also if they correlate to that element. And then we have the zodiac, Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. And understanding those personalities is also important too, so we can understand if anyone has any deficiency or too much earth in their body. And again, it's the chakra is root, the color is red, the endocrine gland is the adrenal cortex, although it could also go into more of the, it can vary a little bit, because it can also be with the ovaries, but we can also go, the waters also have to do with the ovaries and the womb. So, okay, the physical association, it's again the bones, the calcium, so it has to do with structure, the skeletal structure, the large intestines, the blood, the liver. I know the liver a lot of times can be associated with the fire element. The reason what I think it could be both, it's that the liver can also be this part of our bodies that it's putting everything in order so it goes to the right place. So it's like the structure of our bodies. So it's this, I would say, facility where everyone is going to, and like seeing where they need to go. Kind of like, okay, you go here, you go, like the vitamins go here, this enzymes go here, all these things that can have to be processed through the liver so it can be organized into the body. So that's why we can see it as a earth element part of the body, but it can also be fire, because if it's working too much, too hard, then that's when the fires, it's more of a fire element. All right, and then the spleen. Then we have the psychological functions, survival and self-preservation, and ancestral trauma. So yeah, a lot of the earth element, and it has to do with ancestral trauma, because it is the root, it's all the kind of like the things that we come with that have to be, I want to say, even like the things that we took from the earth into our bodies, and like all that memory, all those memories that are carried through the earth, we come with those, and how do we, and that's how we process them, because we're here to work on those things, and we're here in this planet to work on all the ancestral trauma that we come with. I think I can go so far into the ancestral trauma topic, because it is part of our root chakra, especially I think for all of us, that we are mobile human beings, like, and always being in a way displaced from where we come from so many times before. Like, I think all of us have gone through that, and I think just the root and the earth, it always feels a little bit kind of, sometimes doesn't feel so much like home. So it is like learning how to come back to home. How do we come back to home? Through healing all that ancestral trauma and working with that earth element, understanding that it's safe here, understanding that that being grounded doesn't necessarily mean to be in one place forever, but it means, like, it also means that the earth is holding us no matter where we are. But we do have to come to terms with that a lot of the times through healing all that ancestral trauma. And I think that's why the earth element is so correlated to that. How do we come back to loving where we are, to feeling rooted, to feeling yeah, exactly. Like, you know, a lot of, especially I feel like very sensitive people that are a lot in the healing arts, we usually tend to be into wanting to travel a lot to other places because we never feel safe here in this earth. And healing that element factor into our bodies, and feeling home and feeling safe and feeling as part of this earth, as part of this ecosystem, then that can heal a lot of ancestral trauma and like balance our earth element. So I think that's why, yeah, when we work with the earth element, we're also working with those energies. And that goes to say that, you know, there's a lot of herbs that that come with that energy, of making us feel safe and making us feel stable and making us feel at home. Dara, do you have another question? Okay.
You read my mind. I was just going to ask if you could give examples of some of those herbs you're speaking of that do that kind of grounding, coming back to home energy work.
Let me think about one that can make me feel, I feel like a lot of the like working with a lot of roots, it's usually a good it's a good start, making you feel like you're here, you're grounded, you're I don't know why in this moment, and again, like it's kind of, my head is trying to be here, so I can't like, but so what's coming through for some reason that it usually makes me feel personally that I work with, that makes me feel grounded and at home. It's the astragalus and ashwagandha. They just have not only like that helping me relax my body, my nervous system. I just feel very rooted with them. So yeah, that's the one that I can think of right now. But you know, there's
Do you
I'm
drink
sure
them
so many more. Like something for what's that?
as teas or as tinctures? Do you find them more effective?
I like ritual. So I like to do more of leaving it overnight and drinking it the next day. But I mean, they both work. All right. So, um, oh, yeah, the challenge is again fear, and I think that has to do with ancestral trauma and like not feeling at home and just like always kind of like being on edge, and that's I think that's why a lot of that like anxiety can come, like we do live in this like anxious body because we're never feeling safe, and there's a lot of fear that comes through with that, with feeling unsafe. And introducing yourself into or welcoming the earth element into your life, it's not just thinking about all these herbs and thinking about the earth element as like something separate from you, but it's something that we carry inside of us. And then creating a relationship with the elemental spirits that take care of that element, and those are the fairies and the gnomes. So when you go into a forest, you know, introducing yourself into those magical beings that have been forgotten, and we still have like trauma around talking about them. So starting to bring them back into our conversations and bringing them back into our prayers and bringing them back into our acknowledgements, then it also welcomes that earth element into your body, because you're just like taking away that shame um, and fear of just being, right? So yeah, just being very aware of that, of them. And that's, and I'll take more questions towards the end, so that way, if that's just so, because I know there's a lot of things that I'm sure I missed on each of the elements. I think there's so much more to talk about when it comes to the elements, and you can get super kind of geeky about it and like create this huge map that can take you so many places when you start with even just the elements or the planets, or like something that correlates to everything, because we are all one. And if we start looking at ourselves as so above, so below, then we just start understanding so much about everything that we do. All right, so next, please. Water. I get really excited about water because one thing that I'm realizing with working with elements more and more is that when I'm a Scorpio, and so I'm ruled by water, but it's a fire water, but I do feel more water. And I think the reason why it's really cool to see each element being ruled by what zodiac sign, it's understanding that when there's something out of balance in our bodies, it's the first thing that we should look into is the elements that we're ruled by. Because most likely that can be, it can be like the one making us very out of balance. That's how I see that it works a lot of the times, and a lot of the clients that, or the people that I get to meet, as soon as I ask them for their zodiac sign, especially sun sign, then that's how I can like start investigating more about the imbalance of their element. So when I think of water, and it's more of this purifying feeling, I think of intuition and also our emotions. And there is in alchemy, there is a belief that everything comes from water. And I mean, I think it does. Like if we think about the womb, it is water that where the baby is born, it's formed. If we think about evolution, a lot of people think that everything came from water, curled out of water, and it became something, a different species, and like that's how the evolution was created. So we can, and when I said everything is born, again, like yes, and there is a component of fire there too, right? So all the elements really work together. At the end of the day, they're all working together to manifest something material, something that we can see. The planets that are ruled by the water is Mercury and Jupiter, and we have the zodiac signs are Cancer, Scorpion, and Pisces. And the reason Mercury, it's more of the planet of communication. So I think that, our emotions a lot of the times come through communication. Then we have the chakra is the sacral chakra. It's more of the womb. The color, it's orange. If we think about the chakra, and so color foods that are that color can help us realize that that's the foods that are good for our waters. The color of water can also be associated with blue. So depending on what what routes you're going on, but you can make good investigation with those two colors. The physical association will be the womb, the genitals, the kidneys, the bladder, bodily fluids, lymphatic system, synovial fluids in the joints, most mucosal membrane, reproductive system, breast, stomach. And so yeah, I think that if we think about the waters, it's like it's super easy to I like working with waters again, because they're either like, if there's an issue with a client or someone that you're helping that has a problem with either, again, like dryness or too moist, then you can kind of like go into a plant that can help with that problem. If you have a cough that is dry, then you know that there is a lack of moist in the lungs. If you have a cough that is that it has too much mucosal fluid membrane or fluids, then you can think about something that is going to make it a little bit drier, and like also so to help balance that element imbalance. And again, you can study the plants by seeing how much water they carry when you're growing them, or how dry they are, or how many, if they have thorns, if they don't, like, or if they have I like coming back to mullein, because I feel like mullein is very easy to see, like the fussiness, and it's a little bit kind of I feel like for me it feels a little bit moist, the plant. So if we think about, it helps with bringing moist into our lungs, since it's a good plant for the lungs. And the rights to feel, to want, endocrine gland, and that's the ovaries and the testicles. The psychological function is movement and connection. And the challenge is guilt, and the elemental spirits that are ruled by this element are called, it's usually undine. So I apologize for, yes, for the lungs. Thank you. And yeah, and we can also, for the water elements, there are, if you one of the cool things also about the elements is that if you feel like there's a deficiency of that element, it's not only about taking a plant or drinking water, but you can also go and talk to the element, like going to the ocean or going to a river, or just like making that connection with the element can also help. If you don't have accessibility to a plant or something that, or even taking a bath, right? There's like different ways to also create balance with the element by by creating connection and relationships with it. All right, next, please. And now we go into the fire element. Fire is really amazing as well. I mean, all of them are great. The fire, creation, destruction, and transformation. I also believe the fire element as it can alchemize so much can happen with the fire. And I believe that, and there's a lot of indigenous belief that looks at as creation as planting a seed, right? and the planting of the seed, it takes this like pressure that it's a little bit, it's kind of like a spark of fire to create something beautiful. And that's how this was all created, by planting that seed. So that's why we believe that fire is the spark of creation. And when we start getting to this elements again, like we can think of the solar plexus, and I put the heart because I feel like it does meet both chakras. If we think about the fire of the heart, there's a lot of creation that happens there. And it is the heart, at times is also associated with the planets of the sun and Mars. And sun is the creator, and also it feels very like heart chakra in some ways. The zodiac signs are Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. The color is yellow. The physical association is the digestive system. The liver, again, it's although it's associated with the earth, I do believe that when there is a lot of fire, the liver can overdraft in a way, or like overwork and have an issue with the fire element. Gallbladder, the heart chakra, or the heart in general, because of that fire of the heart. So if things are not going with that, the perfect fire, then things can start going a little bit off. Cardiovascular system, immune system, and the muscles are also associated with the fire element. And the rights to act, endocrine gland will be the adrenals and the pancreas. The psychological function will be the will. The challenge will be shame, and the elemental spirits that we get to associate with that element, they're called salamanders. And yeah, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Now we're going to go into the air element. The air element is connection, communication, and movement. Zodiac, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. The planets that are ruled by the air element is Mercury and Sun. And that's why it's like kind of like between here again. The elements, when they start getting a little bit higher, not so much into the feminine principle of like being passive in here, then they start creating more of that two chakra, kind of like in between the middle. And so it's associated with the heart and throat chakra, and rights to love, but also to speak your truth. And that is the breath, right? Like if we think about the air, is the breath. The endocrine gland is the thymus. Physical association is the heart and the lungs, respiratory system, large intestines, the colon, the nervous system. It's really cool because like, although the colon, it's all the way down, if we think about the air element, and we are trying to identify a problem on someone, and someone has too much gas, or they're having like a lot of burping, but also farting, or like, then it has the colon, there's something going on with the colon, and it can also actually be affecting the brain with fogginess. And so usually that's a lot of that happens if you're having a lot of digestive problems in your colon, then you're creating a fogginess that has to do with the air element. Nervous system. And then we can go into our psychological function. Love, identity, social identity. Challenge is the air element is how we grieve, because it has to do with that heart and throat chakra of like all of that energy that grief can bring, can be stuck there. And the elemental spirits will be devas, divas. That's how they're called, of the air. They're beautiful spirits that is kind of like it's like a fairy, but a fairy that it's faster and kind of like more fluid, and they're pretty cool. All right, and then we're gonna go into our last element. Next slide. Okay, so we're going into the spirit, and the spirit, again, it's the space where everything manifests. So you have, if you think about the 4 elements, they have this pyramid, either facing up and downward, and it can turn into a star. Then you have the spirit, it's that then the spirit is kind of the spacing between all of them. And a lot of the times, if spirit is out of balance, that element, then it can show a lot in brain function, connection to creation, so a lot of just doubt and consciousness, and it also has to do with the nervous system. So yeah, that's a very, I know it's a very quick introduction to the elements. I am going to take some questions now. I just saw Diana wrote a question about the fire. If someone can read it for me, that'll be awesome, because I don't have my phone.
Yeah.
Hi, Diana.
Hey. I was just thinking about the last, well, then you also went into spirit, but I was just wondering if you have specific herbs that you think of for both, or for all 3, fire, air, and spirit. Like if somebody's feeling out of balance, are there?
Yeah, I think so. It goes deeper than like an herb or like herbs. I think it's more just understanding, like if we go back to the first or the third one, it's, if you think about the fire, it's either the person is too warm, is it too warm or too dry? Like you have to, yeah, the one that you just, that one. So if you think about fire, it can describe 2 different things. Is the person too warm or too cold, right? Like what's the temp, it has to do with temperature. And then the other thing is like the dryness. Is it like that can be an imbalance of fire. So I would think about, let me think, something, if someone is too cold, right? Like they're having a lot of issues with coldness in their body, then you will give them something to warm them up. And something can be as simple as ginger, or like we can think about chilies, like cayenne pepper. But so it would be more of an assessment. The elements are more to assess and to investigate what the imbalance is, and from that then you can come up with what plant makes sense with that assessment. And it is important to, because I think traditional herbalism tends to go more into like, oh, you have a cough, here's something for the cough, but is the cough dry, is the cough wet, or you have a stomach ache, okay, it's are your stools dry, are they wet? Like, so going deeper into the investigation of like what element it's out of balance with that, with what the person is experiencing. And then from there you can go into what are the herbs that are good for each of those imbalances. And the way you can do it is by studying the plant. Is this plant moist? Is it going to create moist in the body, or is it going to create dryness? Is this plant going to make someone warm, or is it going to make someone cold? And so investigating more about the plants, they're called actives, if I'm not mistaken. I'll tell you right now. They're called I can't think about it, but yeah, just like having it, I think it's more about energetics, the energetics of each plant. So you just want to go into understanding what those energetics are, and then after you understand it, then you'll be able to it's kind of like the correct characteristics of each plant. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and does anyone have any other question about how this is more? That's why this is a big topic, and like going into each element can go deep into a lot of different herbs, because if you need an herb that is for the air element, but it's going to create more of a moist air or a warm air, then there's like different lists for that. And a lot of this, again, this has been defined by the people that perhaps don't have the connection that we have now, so you can make your own investigations. I think part of spiritual herbalism is the curiosity. The curiosity of learning more about them through observation. Like, we have to learn how to, if we want to have a spiritual connection, a relationship with the plants. I know that it's really hard to have access to planting the plant, but we do have the seasons, and perhaps we can go outside and see how things are growing. Like, oh, these roses are growing in this part. Is it wet where they're growing? Is it not wet? Does it have to, like understanding the seasons, how they grow, looking at the leaves of each plant, making that relationship so you really understand their wants, right? Like what they are asking for, and then who they are in their ecosystem is what they are going to bring into our bodies. Dara, you had a question.
Yes, I did. So I'm currently taking I'm in a group, and we're actually practicing making plant and tree and elemental connection. And so something that you said, and actually one of our homework assignments was to go and find a place and sing to that place, or to whatever plant or tree or something that presented. And so something in my experience of feeling inhibition, shame, or something, you spoke to that. And I'm really curious to hear you say more about what you find in our, the dominant Euro-Western culture about that inhibition, because I feel like I'm not an herbalist, and I'm not looking at the plants the way many people might be, but that connection, I feel like is so important, and it feels like it's a real challenge for many of us.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I didn't get the question right, but are you talking about shame around the connection that we have, that, or even like talking about the way we're connecting with the plants?
Yeah, like an inhibition, like a reluctance. I mean, it might not be shame exactly. I think you might have said shame, but
yeah, I mean, I think, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, I'm just sort of repeating, just this idea of an inhibition, something that's kind of holding us back.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it goes back to ancestral trauma, and perhaps even like the toxic masculinity that we have to live through generations, and this shame around being like talking to something that it's not necessarily seen by everyone. And that also has been in a lot of, especially in the Western world, is being demonized in a way. Like, people feel like if you have this connection to something besides actually yourself, because even if you're too nice to your neighbor, there's something wrong with you too. So imagine like talking to a plant, and then yeah, it creates either a shame, or it creates like a fear. It creates something in your body because you feel like you're othered. And I think breaking through that, and that's when this world that exists within us is going to show up for us even more, because we are showing up for them, right? Because there has been so much hurt, not only by denying that it exists and denying that it's there. There has been a lot of hurt by the way we have extracted it, in a way that it's abusive, and in a way that is not honoring what they're doing for us. So we have this thing of not wanting to talk about the spiritual part of things, but we are okay by extracting tobacco and selling it to the masses, and doing all this harm, but we're not talking about the power of the tobacco plant, And so right now, the plant spirits in the plant world it's hurt, it's trying to trust us again. And it is trusting us, and the best way to trust us is by us showing up for them and naming them, and kind of like how we should name our ancestors, how we should name the people that have passed, like all these things that we need to bring to light so they can be honored and respected. That's what's going to take all that shame and fear and inhibition away from us. So yeah, let's talk about fairies. Let's talk about dragons. Let's talk about mermaids and all these things that we have been told not to talk about, and that they're still in the back of our heads. I'm like, oh my God, is this the right crowd for me to even like say these things, because there is a fear of judgment or being called something that most likely, that's perhaps why a lot of people were burned back in the days. So yeah. And
thank you for that answer.
Does anyone have any other questions? All right. Well, I wanted to open up the floor a little bit, because I think it's really cool to see what people not only are thinking, but what they're drinking and why. And I feel like we have a little bit of time to do that. It doesn't have to go super deep into explaining too much, but if you all want to share with me the plant that you chose, and maybe like a word of how you're feeling about the plant, or your connection to the plant world, that will be awesome. And I'll start with someone, because it's what I'm drinking. So I'm going to start with Rose. So Rose, I'm going to have you unmute if you know how to, and share a little bit about what you're drinking.
So that means I can talk now?
Yes, you can talk.
So did you mean like teas and stuff?
Yeah, if you're drinking something now or something that you feel connected to.
Oh. I've been drinking the pine needle tea lately, and dandelion, and like a chai mixture every day. I do a lot of things. So
Amazing. Thanks for sharing.
thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, Isa. Rose, I would ask you to mute now that you shared, unless you have anything else to share. Okay. Hi, Isa, you want to go?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to talk, but it said I couldn't unmute myself. Suanny, thank you so much. And Dara, thank you so much. I'm at the ocean and I have been gathering Rosa rugosa. So Suanny, I too have been with Rose while you've been teaching. And I had this experience. I disappeared for a while because when you were talking and I'm drinking rose tea, I was having a really hard time with the visuals of looking and being just this. So I went and sat on the couch and got really dreamy with the roses and listening to you talking, and it was really wonderful. And I was able to bring your voice just, yeah, your voice really wanted to flow through my body, which I couldn't do with the screen thing. And that was so much the rose. And I wanted to lie down and fall asleep and listen to you and move into this rose kind of dreamy space. The flower is very much connected to me with the sun and sand and the tides of the sea and yeah, and then the last few days, there's just been this tremendous rain, and I've been watching the petals like absorbing the water in a way that I haven't paid attention to with rose before, and feeling the watery feeling of rose also. So first bunch of days is heat and dry and the prickliness, and then the last few days, this watery, dreamy place. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Isa. Yeah, I think it's such a good example because rose, it's such a heart opening medicine that it like brings us back into our hearts and our bodies. And I think like being in this format of like going through a lesson, it's very like masculine and like structured, you know? And so I totally understand. You're like, the plant was like, no, this is not how we're taking in information, you know, or whatever downloads need to come through the plant. Because in reality, this is just like for us to have a moment to be in relationship with whatever plant we choose to be with.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, and it's so nice to see you. All right, I'm gonna go with Donna.
Hello, Suanny. Nice to see you after speaking to you the other day. Yeah. So there's so much that you pull together here that I appreciate about the different ways of, you know, looking at myself, considering the elements that I'm made of, you know, all the colors and fire and all of the elements. And I chose chamomile. And it's so interesting. First of all, it's such a lovely flower, and even dried, I love the look of it, the smell of it, the feel of it. And I use it for so many different things, not just as a tea, but I love breathing it in. So sometimes if my nose or throat or even eyes are off balance, I'll put a towel and take some steaming chamomile and breathe it, even look at it. Today I had a little I had a towel over me and I kept my eyes opened rather than closed. And it was so interesting to see how the color changes when it's boiled like that. Not just how it tastes, but how it looks. And I love to hold it. I love to look at the flower. So I'm double fire sign. So chamomile is so important for me because it has such a calming effect. Yeah. And I love what you were saying. I talk to my plants, but just the different ways of bringing a drum or a rattle, how it comes into your dreams. So that's something I haven't worked with. So it gives me a lot of incentive to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. It's so nice to meet you over this medium. Yeah, I love chamomile, and the flowers are coming out right now, so it's really nice because it's kind of like it's their season. And one cool thing to do when you're introducing yourself to your plants is like even introduce your name to them. And sometimes if after you do a song or a drumming or any instrument you have, you can even like lay right next to them or sit right next to them and just like take in whatever they're trying to bring into your body. So yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I'm gonna go with thank you. So I'm gonna go with Stephen. If you'd like to share something, that would be lovely. Mhm. Do you want to, or there you go. Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have a chance to talk to you and to see the family. Can you hear me, darling?
yeah.
So what I've been drinking a lot, elderberry. You know, I boil the water and I put some organic lemon, let it boil, simmer for quite a while, and then I put my elderberry seed. Is that what the word is? Elderberry, you know, the little dry one, and again let it sit for quite a while over the fire. You know, very very slow motion. And eventually I'll add something. Like lately, I've had the privilege of being taken to a field where they have nettles. So with a dear friend of mine, of course, it's a secret spot. No one is to reveal where it is. And I dry them. And so then I'll just put a bunch of them on top of it at the end, you know, for after shut off the heat. And I understand the elderberry are very good, you know, for our breathing or stuff. So during the Corona Morona, it's a good thing to take.
Thank you, Stephen. Is this Stephen your name or
I'm at,
your
I'm at,
husband?
I'm at the home of Stephen and Joni Miller because I don't have equipment at my house. It was quite a trick to be here today. Thanks to Donna.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so grateful and so honored to have you.
Same thing for Rose Ferry. All of us worked for 6 hours to get plugged in, and Donna Nishko was kind enough to handle the whole operation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Where do you live? Where do you live? Where do you live?
What's that?
Where do you live? Where do you reside?
Oh, I'm in Philmont right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, Philmont, New York. Thank you so much for being here. And that delicious elixir that you spoke about sounds amazing. Nettles are also just such a beautiful medicine. And yeah, used in actually if you ever get to go to the jungle, nettles in the jungle are such a different story. They're so big and their teeth are the little spike things are so big but so medicinal. And there's a lot of cleanses that we do in our rituals with them. So they're really, really good.
Can you elaborate?
What's that?
Can you elaborate a little bit about the ritual that you do with the wild nettles? Is it possible?
Sure. The wild nettles there are used mostly for just it's kind of like acupuncture in a way. So they go direct into your skin, and they just release a medicine that helps you relax and any tension that you have in your body or inflammation that you have in your body. It's pretty intense, but when the pain or the stinginess goes away, then it's like you had a massage for a few hours. It's really nice. And it's used a lot to create protection and to cleanse your energy fields. So it's a very powerful medicine here and anywhere. You can also do it here with the stinging nettles. You can put it all over your body and it releases tension.
It's such amazing because, you know, when we harvest them, we try to protect ourselves with gloves or whatever. When I was a child and I was a farmer, when I was 6 years old at the farm, we used to gather the very young nettles back in France and chop them very finely for the baby geese and feed them with that. I really loved it. But I
Yeah,
can't-
they're really smart. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I'm gonna go for Leah so we can let George have a bite.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
I chose the the licorice tea. I like the licorice tea. That's comforting. I think it represents a good taste. As I'm just used to, I'm used to comforting myself with a licorice. And it just brings just like, I mean, the smell represents being very very pleasant, very comfortable, very calming. The licorice root. Yes, that's what I was thinking about.
Thanks for sharing, Leah. Licorice spirit medicine. I love that. Thank you. George, you'll be the last one to share. Would you like to share something? You're still on mute.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, I was saying that there's so many herbs in my life. I don't know where to begin. I'm surrounded by herbs, and every morning I put mugwort and tulsi and stevia and cannabis and peppermint and hawthorn and green tea, along with a lemon, a whole lemon into my tea. That's my morning tea, and then I drink it in a big cup. I mix it up 33 stirs in one direction, 33 in the other, and then I drink it, and then I spoon and I eat all of the herbs in the bottom. And there's like an inch of herbs in the bottom of the cup by the time I'm finished. And they're all nice, warm, and tender, and it's the most delicious little meal in the morning. Not that I don't eat breakfast after that, but I mean, so I love that. And I always go out and I pick any of the herbs that are growing fresh, I pick fresh rather than dried. And it's just a wonderful tea. Hawthorn is a tree I like, and I want to grow some hawthorn. I live on a farm where we had a lot of big hawthorn bushes, and really recently how good it is for your heart and for your circulatory system. So, yeah, herbs. There's herbs everywhere. I walk out my door and there's herbs all over the place. And it's interesting that different times of the year, the herbs that are available, right? like right now, if I walk out, there's certain herbs that are available, but a month from now, they'll be gone. There'll be other ones that are stronger.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like, as we talk about the seasons and each herb in each season, it correlates to an element. So that's the cool thing about seeing like when the herbs or the plants grow, because it tells you so much about their own element. And what you just described is actually a ritual that you've been doing for a while, and that's pretty cool. You're creating a relationship with the herbs that you're drinking through that ritual. So thanks for sharing. That's really nice. All right. So I think that's everyone, unless we have anyone else that I missed. I know Dara already said nettles. Is there anything else you'd like to share and like do a close up, or Diana?
Well, I just noticed Felice had to leave. I don't know if you saw her note. She wrote, "This is so beautiful and thank you. And yes to nettle and rose medicine, for tea and holy basil, Tulsa lately too, and breathing into lilac." And I have to hop off now. Thank you for all the sharing. So, Felice.
Thanks. And someone just asked for my contact number. I think Diana, will you send a follow-up note with that? Is that okay?
Sure.
Or
And yeah, and I'll plug your website right there too, just right here at the bottom, or right here on the there. And I just thought I'm just going to bring a little horsetail in, because I just harvested this recently. I was on a road trip to the West Coast, and it was just stunning, this grouping of horsetail that I came across. And I think it's just such an interesting plant. It's apparently one of the most ancient plants. It used to be the first tree,
yeah.
and it has so much silica in it, which is one of the most greatest elements on the planet. But it's incredible for the bones, the skin, the teeth, the nails. I just think it's amazing. I love horsetail. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love horsetail. One fun thing about horsetail, it's also that Silicon Valley used to be where a bunch of silica trees or horsetail trees used to reside back in the day. And so that's part of the name. And also silicone is, or silica, it's what we put in it's inside our telephone. So it's like one of the elements that it's utilized for creation and not creation, the connection that we have with the all.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Suanny, so much for this presentation and sharing so much of, just the outpouring of your knowledge and all that, you carry as you move through life. And yeah, everybody, continue to come back to our website, see what's coming as time rolls on. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, everyone.
Nice seeing you.
Pleasure.
Have a good night, everyone.